My name is Sarah Miller, and I am 34 years old. Last night, I walked into the grand ballroom of the Drake Hotel in Chicago, believing I had finally earned the right to just breathe. I was there to watch my little brother Leo marry the girl of his dreams. I did not show up looking for a standing ovation. I did not expect a toast praising the 10 years I spent working double shifts at a diner, ruining my knees, just so he could afford tuition at Northwestern. I came simply as the proud older sister, the girl who had been both mom and dad to him since our parents passed away in a car wreck when he was only 12. The room was jaw-droppingly gorgeous. It smelled of white orchids, expensive champagne, and that crisp, heavy scent that only exists in rooms where people have never had to look at a price tag. The bride's family, the Vance dynasty, made their fortune in commercial real estate. They look at the world like they own it, because, well, on paper, they do. I smiled, smoothing down my department store dress, and walked over to my assigned table near the back corner. I found my name card sitting neatly beside a crystal water glass, but when I looked down at the crisp, elegant calligraphy, my blood turned to absolute ice. It did not say Sister of the Groom. It did not even say my name. It read, "The charity case from the South Side. Please do not feed the freeloaders." Before the shock could even register, a sharp, high-pitched laugh cut through the ambient music. I looked up. 3 tables over, the bride's father, Arthur Vance, was raised glass in hand, leaning into his wealthy business partners. They were smirking. His daughter, the bride, was across the room getting her dress adjusted, completely oblivious. But Arthur was staring right at me, his eyes dripping with pure amusement. This was not a printing error. This was a calculated, high society ambush. My vision blurred. Every instinct told me to run, to burst through those double doors and cry on the train ride home. But I looked at Leo, beaming in his tuxedo, and I thought, no, I will not ruin his night. I swallowed the lump of glass in my throat, placed the card face down, and turned to slip away into the shadows. But I was not fast enough. Leo's hand caught my wrist. He had walked over to surprise me. He looked at my face, then looked down at the table, and flipped the card over. I watched his eyes scan the words. I watched the color completely drain from his face, replaced by a terrifying, quiet rage I had never seen in him before. He did not yell. He did not cause a scene. Instead, Leo picked up his butter knife and struck his champagne glass. Clink. Leo picked up his butter knife. Clink. The 150-person ballroom went completely dead silent. The jazz band tapered off. Leo looked directly across the sea of tuxedos and diamonds, straight into the eyes of Arthur Vance. His voice was terrifyingly calm, but it echoed off the high ceilings. Arthur, Leo said, holding the card up high. You just made the most expensive mistake of your entire life. Before I tell you how the rest of that night shattered a multi-million-dollar empire, let me ask you, what is the weather like where you are right now? And does it match the cold, stormy mood this story is about to put you in? Arthur Vance did not even blink. He slowly stood up from the head table, adjusting his custom-tailored suit jacket. He let out a soft, condescending chuckle that made my skin crawl. Leo, son, Arthur said, waving a dismissive hand. Sit down. You are embarrassing yourself in front of our board members. It was a joke. A light, rehearsal dinner-style joke. Your sister looks like a big girl. Surely she can handle a little high society ribbing. A few of Arthur's corporate cronies chuckled under their breath, but the rest of the room stayed dead quiet. If it was a joke, I said, my voice steady, cutting through the room before Leo could stop me. Then why am I the only one bleeding? Arthur's smile thinned out, turning razor sharp. Because people from your background always carry a chips on their shoulder attitude. You take everything personally. You should be very careful tonight, young man, he added, shifting his gaze back to Leo. A junior architect in your position should understand the immense value of good connections. Look around this room. We have welcomed you into a world that can open doors you could never even dream of reaching alone. I could feel Leo's hand trembling with restraint. I stepped slightly in front of him. He did not need your doors, Arthur. He built his own stairs. Every single scholarship, every late-night drafting session, he did it himself. Arthur leaned against his chair, looking thoroughly amused. refused, and you helped, I am sure. Look, everyone has a sob story, but working a fryer at a diner does not make someone cultured. It does not make you our equal, and it certainly does not grant you a permanent press pass into our family's tax bracket. Asterisk, a collective, horrified gasp rippled through the bridesmaids' table. My face burned with hot, primal shame, but I refused to look down. Asterisk behind my eyelids. 10 years of flashes hit me all at once. I thought about the winter nights the heat got shut off, and I gave Leo my only 3 blankets, telling him I was sweating. I thought about selling our mother's engagement ring to pay for his senior software licenses, pretending I had just misplaced it so he wouldn't feel guilty. I had skipped meals, skipped dates, skipped an entire life, just so he could stand in a room like this and never feel small. And now, this man was using my sacrifice as a weapon to mock us. Asterisk. I never came here asking to be equal to your bank account. Arthur, I whispered, the microphone on the podium nearby picking up my words. I came here as family. Asterisk family. Arthur sneered. Is a word poor people use to force their way into rooms where they simply do not belong. That was the exact moment the string snapped. Leo let go of my hand, stepped forward, and unpinned the white rose boutonniere from his lapel. He dropped it right into his champagne glass with a wet thud. Asterisk. She belongs anywhere I stand, Leo said, his voice dropping an octave. And since she is leaving, so am I. Asterisk. Arthur's face morphed from amusement to cold, corporate calculation. The joke was over. The corporate punishment was beginning. He pulled his iPhone out of his breast pocket. Asterisk. Maybe we should revisit a few financial arrangements before this marriage becomes legally binding, Arthur said, his voice amplified by the sudden silence. Job offers can be rescinded, Leo. The legacy partnership at Advanced Development can be pulled. Trust funds can be frozen. You think your pride is free. You're about to learn it has a very, very heavy price tag. Asterisk. Leo stared at him, unblinking. Thank you, Arthur. Asterisk. Arthur paused, squinting. For what? Asterisk. For showing my bride exactly who you are before she signed the papers. Asterisk. Just then, Chloe, the bride, came rushing through the side doors, her long lace train rustling against the marble. She looked pale, her eyes darting between her father holding his phone like a weapon, and Leo standing like a stone wall. Asterisk. What is going on? She demanded, her voice shaking. Leo? Dad? Asterisk. Leo didn't say a word. He simply picked up the calligraphy place card and handed it to her. Chloe, read it. I watched her eyes widen, a look of sheer, unfiltered nausea washing over her face. She looked at her father. Asterisk. Dad, tell me you didn't do this, she whispered. Asterisk. It was a joke, Chloe. A test to see if he was sturdy enough for our world. Arthur snapped, his patience wearing thin. Stay out of this. Remember who paid for that dress you are wearing. Remember who bought the penthouse you two are moving into next week. Asterisk. But Chloe did not back down. She took 3 steps away from her father's table, right toward us. Did you know about this? She asked Leo, her voice breaking. Asterisk. No, Leo said softly. But your dad just told me that if I don't let him humiliate my sister, he will ruin my career and cut you off. Asterisk. Arthur's wife, Eleanor, rushed forward, putting a frantic hand on Chloe's shoulder, smiling tightly at the guests who were already pulling out their phones. Sweetheart, please, not here. There are eyes on us. The media editors are in the lobby. Asterisk. Good. Let them watch, Chloe shouted, flinging her mother's hand off. She turned to her father, her chin high. Sarah gave up her entire 20s so Leo could have a future. He told me everything she did. I thought it was a beautiful story, but I did not truly understand the depth of it until right now. Seeing how much it threatens a small, insecure man like you. Asterisk. You were being hysterical, Arthur warned, his eyes narrowing into slits. You were throwing away a lifetime of security over sentimentality. Asterisk. No, Dad, Chloe said, a single tear cutting through her perfect makeup. I am finally waking up. You don't want a son-in-law. You want a pet you can audit. Asterisk. The room completely shifted. The wealthy guests who had laughed minutes ago were now squirming, looking down at their salmon plates. Not because they suddenly cared about me, but because Arthur's cruelty had stopped looking like a joke and started looking like a PR disaster. Asterisk. Arthur leaned forward, his voice a dangerous whisper. You have no idea what loyalty to these people will cost you, Chloe. Maybe it is time I find out, she replied. Arthur's jaw clenched. In that split second, he stopped looking at her like a daughter and started looking at her like a piece of real estate that was slipping out of his portfolio. He lifted his phone back to his ear, making no effort to hide the call. Marcus? Yes, it's Arthur. Call the head of the architecture board at Vanguard Firms. Tell them the junior associate position we sponsored for Leo Miller is dead. Cancel the contract. Now. He hung up, looking at Leo with a dead, empty stare. Enjoy your little moral victory tonight. By tomorrow morning, you will understand the difference between pride and power. With that, Arthur Vance turned on his heel and walked out of the ballroom, his wife trailing behind him like a ghost. The wedding didn't just end. It collapsed. The music didn't play. The cake sat uncut. Leo, Chloe, and I left the hotel together in a regular yellow cab, the city lights blurring past the windows. The next morning, the hammer dropped. Leo's phone rang at 6:30 a.m. The job offer at Vanguard was officially gone. That Arthur wasn't done. By 8 a.m., I received an email from the Chicago Community Foundation. For the past 2 years, I had been working on a project called the Horizon Van, a mobile tech lab designed to drive into low-income neighborhoods to teach kids resume writing, coding, and interview skills. Kids who were just like Leo and me once were. Arthur Vance was a major donor to that foundation. The email was short. Your grant application has been placed under indefinite administrative freeze. He had targeted Leo's future, and he had suffocated my dream. All because we refused to let him own our dignity. An hour later, Chloe arrived at my cramped Southside apartment. She had traded her lace gown for a pair of old grey sweatpants and sneakers. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were clear. She slammed her laptop onto my chipped kitchen table. My cousin was at the executive table last night, Chloe said, her voice shaking with adrenaline. She recorded his pre-wedding toast to the board members. Listen to this. She pressed play. Arthur's voice boomed through my tiny kitchen, loud and arrogant. The sister is a liability, Arthur's voice recorded saying, followed by the clinking of glasses. She has that obnoxious working-class martyr complex. People like that use their struggle to manipulate. Once Leo is under our roof, we teach him scarcity. We strip away that safety net, and he will learn exactly who holds the leash. Leo slammed his fist against the drywall. I'm posting it. Right now. I'm putting it on every platform. No, I said, my voice dead quiet. Not yet. They both stared at me. If we post it now, Arthur will hire a crisis PR firm. He will say it's an angry family feud. He will say we are bitter because the wedding got cancelled. I explained, the old survival instincts kicking in. We need him to say it to our faces. We need him to prove he means it, without a room full of people protecting him. Chloe, call your father. Tell him you want a private family meeting at his estate in Lake Forest to discuss the terms of your return. Tell him you want peace. Chloe looked at me, a slow, brilliant understanding dawning in her eyes. You want to give him one last chance to do the right thing. Yes, I nodded. And when he doesn't, we let him talk. Men like him always do. The meeting was set for the following Saturday at the Vance estate. It was less of a house and more of a fortress. High stone walls, security cameras at every turn, and a manicured lawn that felt entirely devoid of life. We were escorted into a massive, leather-bound study. Arthur sat behind a heavy mahogany desk like a judge. His corporate attorney stood in the corner, briefcase open. Let's be efficient, Arthur said, not even bother to stand. I assume you are here because reality has finally set in. The bank accounts are cold, the job market is dry, and you realize that pride doesn't pay the rent. I sat down in the leather chair opposite him, placing my phone face down on my lap. We are here because your daughter wanted to see if there was any shred of humanity left in you, Arthur. Call off the Vanguard block, unfreeze the community grant, apologize to my brother, and we can bury this. Arthur threw his head back and laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. Apologize? To you people. You people confuse surviving a hard life with having actual value. Respect isn't earned by flipping burgers or living in a food desert, Sarah. Respect is dictated by leverage, and right now, you have zero. He turned his eyes to Chloe. You have until 5 p.m. to move back into the penthouse, Chloe. If you stay with him, you are completely cut off. No trust, no inheritance. Nothing. I will not bankroll a daughter who chooses a family of freeloaders over her own blood. Asterisk. He then looked at me, sliding a manila envelope across the mahogany wood. Inside is a check for $100,000. Take it, move out of Illinois, and remove yourself from their lives permanently. Consider it a payout for your sob story. Asterisk. Leo lunged forward, his knuckles white, but I caught his arm. I looked at the envelope, then up at Arthur. Asterisk. You think I raised my brother just to sell him back to the highest bidder? I asked softly. Asterisk. I think everyone has a price. Arthur smirked, leaning back. Poor people just usually discover there's a lot faster when the winter electric bill arrives. Asterisk. I smiled. It was the first real smile I had worn in a week. I reached down, flipped my phone over, and hit stop on the recording app. Then, I hit play on a master file. Asterisk. First, the recording of his pre-wedding toast played through the study speakers. We teach him scarcity. He will learn exactly who holds the leash. Asterisk. Then, the audio from the last 3 minutes in the study played back. $100,000. Payout for your sob story. Asterisk. Arthur's arrogant smirk instantly vanished. The blood completely left his face. The attorney in the corner closed his briefcase with a loud snap. Arthur, shut your mouth right now. Don't say another word. Asterisk. I stood up, tucking my phone into my pocket. You spent your whole life thinking money could buy silence, Arthur, but it can't buy back your daughter's respect. And it can't delete what you just confessed to. Asterisk. Chloe looked at her father one last time, her face completely detached. Goodbye, Dad. Asterisk. We walked out of that fortress, and by 3 p.m. that afternoon, the audio files were uploaded. Asterisk. I didn't add dramatic music. I didn't write an angry, venting caption. I just posted the calligraphy card, the emails freezing my community grant, and the raw, unedited audio files of Arthur Vance, explaining exactly how he used his wealth to crush working-class citizens. Asterisk. By Sunday morning, the story had completely broken the internet. Asterisk. It blew up on Reddit's largest forums. It trended #1 on TikTok under hashtag older siblings and hashtag class cruelty. Millions of people listened to Arthur's voice, but then, something beautiful happened. The story stopped being about Arthur Vance and started being about the invisible army of people who had lived my life. Asterisk. Thousands of comments flooded in. Nurses working double shifts to put their daughters through school. Older brothers who gave up college to take care of their younger siblings after a divorce. One comment had over 50,000 likes. It simply said, I raised my sister for 12 years, and no one ever saved me a seat at the table either. Sarah, we see you. The systemic backlash hit Vance development like a Category 5 hurricane. By Tuesday, 2 major city contract boards announced they were launching internal reviews into Vance Development's ethical practices. By Thursday, 3 non-profit boards publicly stripped Arthur of his honorary chair positions. The corporate partners who had laughed with him at the hotel instantly released statements distancing themselves from his deplorable sentiments. Asterisk. But the most expensive loss Arthur Vance faced couldn't be measured on a balance sheet. Asterisk. Chloe never went back. She and Leo found a tiny, sun-drenched 1-bedroom apartment on the north side with creaky floors and second-hand furniture. It had more love and peace in it than that Lake Forest mansion ever held. 2 weeks later, Eleanor Vance filed for legal separation, moving into a condo downtown. Arthur was left completely, utterly alone in his fortress. Asterisk. As for my project, the foundation didn't just restore the grant, they apologized in writing. And within 48 hours of the video going viral, every day people from all across the United States started donating $5, $10, $20 to the Horizon van. We raised over $80,000 in a single week. Asterisk. Last Saturday, the mobile tech van had its very first launch. 17 teenagers showed up. Leo was there, volunteer teaching basic digital design. Chloe's helping a young girl edit her college essay. Asterisk. I stood by the back door, watching a young boy look at his newly formatted resume, his shoulders shifting back as he stood just a little bit taller. And I realized something profound. Asterisk. Arthur Vance tried to bury us. He thought our poverty made us weak, but he didn't realize that people who have had to fight for every single inch of their lives don't break when the wind blows. We survive. Asterisk. True wealth isn't isn't found in a country club ballroom or a mahogany study. It is found in the courage to stand up for the people who carried you when you were too small to walk. So, let me ask you one final question. If you had been sitting at that table, would you have stayed quiet just to keep the peace? Or would you have stood up and let the truth cost whatever it had to cost?